you will be more inclined to the women that ultimately will be partners for life, that will be wives for you, that will provide beautiful children for you. Gentlemen, welcome back. In this video we're going to be talking about the divine feminine. Now this is a response to the previous video that I created about why they will hate you on retention, and this was addressing the reaction that you may typically get from the male counterpart whilst on this journey. Now I think this particular phenomenon manifests itself as a consequence of our natural inclination of men to be more rational, logical, and more, again, intellectually inclined creatures. And when they begin to experience the presence of a true masculine, and they haven't typically expressed this, or experienced rather, this energy in their life, they will naturally be perplexed, and they may, of course, respond to you in a more negative way. We talked about some underlying bitterness and resentment towards yourself, the divine masculine. On the other hand, I should say rather, the response that we get from the feminine is charming. I'm sure you've experienced it yourself, but the reason why women have a natural inclination to respond positively to a man who has embodied the masculine principle is that empathic predisposition that they have. So women, of course, are more emotionally driven creatures, and they're more sensitive to the feeling of the environment, of the interaction around you. And of course, when you are coming from this whole abundant magnetic point of energy, they're going to be more inclined towards you. Now this happens through a number of different reasons, and the first is because you have fundamentally healed yourself. If we can take the analogy of the drug addict, of somebody who is so chained to a external source like weed, alcohol, heroin, meth, and you have seen them in the streets in their dazed and dog-eared kind of states, and even if you brought them something to eat, they would never experience the kind of joy and dopamine that is associated with the highest highs of some of the paraphernalia that have been taken over time. This was once you, make no mistake. We can see ourselves in the eyes of a homeless individual on the street addicted to those kind of substances when we are addicted to pornography, a promiscuous lifestyle, and adult material. The presence, or I should say rather the effects it has on our neurochemistry is staggering. So you can imagine those big influxes of dopamine hitting your system once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, how many times you were addicted to it. And you begin to become desensitized to the smaller pleasures in life. No longer does a walk on the beach, a interaction with a stranger, or a smile at someone feel as good as it once does, because you're allocating so much of that dopamine to that external stimuli. That's something that will cripple and poison your reward centers. So what then happens when you begin to abstain, refrain, and heal yourself from this particular substance? And this could be anything. Many of you who perhaps were taking some of the things that I mentioned before and cut them out of your life will experience more joy being brought back to you. So again, that dopamine allocated to the illicit substances, we can take that dopamine and begin to integrate it back into our lifestyle. Walks on the beach, walks in the park, listening to birds chirping, watching a beautiful sunrise, now is experienced with so much more joy, so much more dopamine. So we're so much more sensitively inclined to those natural phenomenon that presents itself in life. And then after months of living this particular way and you're fully healed, you begin to tell yourself, this is how we were supposed to live. This is how it was supposed to be. Getting out of bed is so much more easy now because I experience so much joy in just breathing. And then when it comes to interactions with women, then they understand that you're coming from this perspective of abundance, of joy, of that natural affinity and curiosity for life. They just want to chase that. They want to have what you have. They want to experience what you're experiencing. So much joy on a daily basis. And what I think is the most unique point to why they will love you and why they will be after your attention so much is because you don't want anything from them. And that is the shift that will naturally come towards you. It's not something that you need to train towards. It's not something that you need to exercise particularly. As long as you're coming from the perspective of wholeness and you're not chasing the box, so to speak, and the pleasure that's associated with what ultimately these PUA player pickup artists, are so hopelessly enslaved by the pleasure associated with sex and promiscuity. You don't want anything from them, and you're genuinely there, or you're genuinely getting so much joy from just the interaction with a beautiful woman. And they're so curious. I don't understand why this man isn't trying to get me into bed. Why hasn't he tried to pull out some of his PUA moves on me? But instead, the interaction is lighthearted, and it is all orientated around this point of joy, of enjoyment, of fun. The best way to get a woman interested in you and to expand the interaction is just keep it light, playful, but ultimately fun. Again, drawing on that natural affinity women have for just enjoying the feeling of the moment. But some of these PUAs are so, the rational thinkers, so orientated on the end goal. Let's get to the end goal. Let's get to the ultimate goal. There's no foreplay. There's no playfulness to it, and that's why they mess up. And these women are so privy to their particular advancements. What I think is also a very interesting phenomenon to note is that you will find, let's say, what's a polite way to phrase this, non-socially attractive women more attractive. Maybe I didn't phrase it in the best way, but I'm talking about the obsession we have as a society of a typical type of woman, the quote-unquote baddie, the Instagram IG model. Those women are so superficially and, let's say, socially attractive in a certain type of way. It does a disservice to the more traditionally attractive women, the girl next door, the woman that you wouldn't typically align with, some woman considered high value and a partner for life. Well, this is so beautiful. This is so good for you, because this is what men need. Because I see so many men putting all their eggs into that, again, societal trap of IG models, of big bootygram IG models. And I see you scrolling on your feeds, and you're looking on their feeds, and it's just so much clout and so much attention is being poured into this idea of being, sexually suggestive and sexually inclined, the quote-unquote trophy wife, and you realize that once you have her, she's empty, she's shallow, or she cares about what's in your bank account, and she ultimately doesn't give a fuck about you. So this is why retention is so important, because it's going to incline you to the more traditionally attractive women, to women who have those traditional values, who want to provide a beautiful home for you, a beautiful family, be a good teacher, educator, and bring knowledge, wealth, and value to your life in such a way that these women cannot even compare with. Because if you take their looks away, you take sex away from them, then they have no value whatsoever. So one of the beautiful things, like I've kind of alluded to in that small comparison there, is you will be more inclined to the women that ultimately will be partners for life, that will be wives for you, that will provide beautiful children for you, and ultimately be the best partners for you. And I just want to check the time here, because we are getting on a little bit here. But men, this is a beautiful part of the journey for you. This is something that you're going to be naturally inclined towards. And maybe some of you can post a little bit of inspiration for some of the men who are struggling on this journey, who have experienced some of the things that I have been posing in this dialogue this morning, and all that joy that is going to accompany you when you start chasing finite and fleeting pleasure. So men, if you enjoyed this video, if you subscribe to what I've subscribe to me, and I will bring you some very good content very soon. So take care, brothers, and I'll see you again.